Hey guys, it's Kimby Dare. I'm going to be talking for 11 minutes straight, so bear with me if I have any awkward pauses or whatever. I just don't feel like editing right now because I'm a lazy fuck. And I'm allowed to be lazy because I just finished the 7.2 Hidden Artifact Appearance Challenge for Beast Mastery Hunter Specs, where you have to kill Tugar and his giant ass worm. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, how'd you do it, Kim? I've heard these challenges are tough. What do you have to do? Let me tell you right now. Tugar breaks down into about, I'd say 3 phases. First phase is, as you see here, attack him, dodge the puddles in the ground, and go ham on his face while interrupting his key cast, Fell Burst. Fell Burst is your number one thing to worry about here. Number one priority. You have to interrupt Fell Burst every single time he casts it. You cannot let your pet die. It will one-shot your pet unless it's tenacity. If it's tenacity, if your pet is full health, he will chunk it down to like 20% HP. But if he's not full health, then it'll kill your pet. So I didn't go tenacity. I just thought that, well, if I'm going to interrupt it anyway, I might as well have some more damage. So I have a Ferocity Spec Dire Horn here. And Dire Horn is something I'm going to get to later, but very key to this. You have Counter Shot to interrupt his Fell Burst cast. That's one way. That is one way you're going to use a lot. There is your Frost Trap to interrupt Fell Burst. Frost Trap will interrupt Fell Burst, but the targeting reticule you have to put in the ground, in addition to the activity of the fight itself, made that fairly unreliable, so I did not use that. Unless it was a dire emergency, then I did. You also have the Beast Mastery spec Intimidation, which will stun the target, and Tugar is indeed stunnable, which is a good emergency button to have if you need it. But keep in mind, you need to have your pets on Tugar, he needs to be targeting Tugar, and you need a free global cooldown to use Intimidation, which was not always available if you're being stunned by things in the fight, as I often did because I was bad. Now, so if I didn't like using Frost Trap, and I wasn't really fond of Intimidation unless it's an emergency, what did I do? Well, let me tell you. Dire Horn. Dire Horn has an ability, the Reflective Shield, whatever the hell it's called. It will deflect all spells cast in front of it. Now, I never thought this ability was useful in the past, right? It came out in Mists of Pandaria. I was just excited to tame Triceratops because they're really, really cool. I said, this ability is junk. I'm not going to care about it. They make annoying stomping noises. Alright, bench the Dire Horn forever. Well, Dire Horn came back out for this fight and was an MVP because his shield will deflect the cast. It will deflect it. He will not take any damage from it, and if he does, it's very slight. So what I did was I would alternate Counter Shot with the Deflective Shield and occasionally do an Intimidation if I felt the need to. Now, I'm going to forewarn you that at first I thought the shield was bugged because sometimes my pet would get killed anyway when he had it up, but I figured out I was being too impatient. If you use a Dire Horn and use the Reflective Shield while Tugar is casting Fell Burst, you need to wait. You need to not use Kill Command. You need to just sit there. You can Cobra Shot if you want, but do not make your pet attack the target. If you make him attack, which I did have pet attack macros worked into my kill command and my multi-shot. If I hit them while he was casting and my shield was up, the shield would end abruptly because the Dire Horn is being programmed to go attack. You have to wait. Wait until the cast finishes, you see the spell deflected, then go back onto Tugar. Keep that in mind. Now, that is all stuff to keep in mind for his quote-unquote phase 1. Dodging stuff and interrupting that cast any way you can. Any possible way. Any of those ways I listed, please do them. The phase 2 involves when his worm goes into the ground and starts burrowing around. Right away, at the beginning of the fight, the worm has about 8 or 9 stacks of this buff, which reduces the damage it takes by 10% for each stack it has. So 90% damage reduction, not cool. Blizzard designed this fight in a way where they wanted the worm and Tugar to die at the same time, I think, because when one dies, the other one enrages with 150% extra damage, which is no bueno. But I mitigated that in a way I will tell you in a bit. But the normal way to mitigate this buff is for when he goes in the ground and starts burrowing around, Tugor will use Earthquake right beforehand, and stalagmites will drop on the ground. The worm needs to run into these stalagmites, and every one it hits, it drops one stack of its buff. Now, I'm not sure if there's any way to guide it towards these stalagmites. I'm pretty sure it followed you on a path, kind of. I think when it says it's going to charge, you're supposed to get by a stalagmite and get it bonked in the head or something, but I didn't care. I was too worried about cast times and didn't give a crap what the worm was doing, so I ignored him mostly, just dodged shit. That's about phase 2. He does that for a little bit, and also eggs will spawn with these worm adds that'll hatch out of them. My strat for those was, while dodging the stalagmites and the worm burrowing at you, is I would just multi-shot and get Beast Cleave on the eggs. The range was pretty large on Beast Cleave, so I was able to hit them most of the time, but I didn't really worry about the worms too much. I would always focus Tugor for his cast, because he will usually cast Spell Burst once in the middle of this clusterfuck. So usually I would Beast Cleave as much as I could, make sure I was on him for the cast, and then kill any straggling worms. While dodging like the burrowing and the goo, like the giant X in the grounds that pop up like right here. That's phase 2. Then he'll go back to phase 1 after the first round. So it goes phase 1, like I described initially, phase 2, which is the burrowing phase, and then the phase 1/phase 3, which will do the rest of the fight after phase 2. The only thing different here, and why I call it phase 3, is that he drops a totem on the ground that you need to be careful of and kill with a Cobra Shot whenever you see it, because it has a long cast, and if it finishes the long cast, it'll stun you, which isn't the end of the world with the Dire Horn, because you can use the Dire Horn's shield while stunned, but if that's on cooldown and you have to use your counter shot to interrupt it if you're doing that rotation, it's really essential to make sure you kill those totems. And you rinse and repeat mostly. And as you can see here, as soon as your pet does die, if you mess up one of your cast interrupts like I did at the very end here, Tugor will no longer go back to your pet. If you feign death or anything, his aggro will not go back to the pet. It's always on you, which is pretty tough. Now, the way I mitigated this, all this damage, and you're wondering why I probably haven't died yet, is actually through clever use of legendaries. By default, I had the Roar of the Seven Lions belt, which is a damaged legendary for hunters, as well as the bracers, which reduce my aspect cooldowns by X amount. I don't know. I actually had to swap both of them out for the Roots of Shaldrasil, which restores 3% of my maximum HP every 1 second. That was a nice buff, but that wasn't enough. I actually had to also equip the Magnum Opus Necklace, which gives you that shield every 30 seconds. And let me tell you, those two legendaries put together was amazing. It negated so much damage, dude. Because even if you're chunked pretty hard, if that shield pops up, your pants are healing 3% every second underneath the shield to get you back up to full. So, invaluable. I'm so sorry, Magnum Opus, that I raged when you dropped. You have been key to this challenge. Now, once Tugor dies, the worm will enrage here, and I did not DPS the worm down much, as you can tell. However, with the 2 legendaries stacking up, I was able to negate the extra damage shrieks that he did and restore HP pretty heavily. Each shriek does about half your HP when he's enraged, which normally would kill a guy, right? But with the legendary combo of the pants and the ring, I was able to heal the full every time, in addition to the fact that I swapped out my pets after Tugor died to a Spirit Beast, which has a heal on it. So I was pretty much set. If you can get to this point with a Dire Horn and kill Tugor, this is a cakewalk. All I'm doing is sitting here DPSing, and there's no stress anymore, because you'll heal a full and call it good. Now, I know this won't be replicatable by a lot of hunters, because it really depends on legendaries. Legendaries and pet choice and patience are all key to this. These fights are usually geared for Tumas Argeris raiding gear, so I don't think they expect people to get 100% right now, but don't be discouraged. If you have the Roots of Shaldrasil and the Magnum Opus necklace, you can definitely do this. You can do this. My item level is only $8.99 in this video. $899, which, I mean, is still a lot. But people were saying you need like 9-10 gear and all this other stuff. Not really. As long as you have the right legendaries, you can do this. And I know Blizzard will probably have incentive to nerf the Direhorn shield thing, but I hope they don't, because it rewards the player for thinking outside the box. Like I said, I never considered using the shield in the past, and then this is the first time I just popped in my head going, oh yeah, they do that. I wonder if it works here. And it did. So it also rewards the players for using correct legendaries for the situation, which is something Blizzard has said it wanted to do for a long time. The whole point of this RNG legendary system was to get legendaries you can swap in and out. And with two of the best DPS legendaries for my spec, I was never going to use the pants and the necklace. Ever. You know. Why would I ever do that? Well, here was a reason to. So, Blizzard proved me wrong. I hope that this video was a little bit helpful. Although, like I said, it's very circumstantial based on what legendaries you have and what pet you're using. But if you do it right and you're patient, you can get this skin. I believe in you guys. I know you can do it. And if not, there's no rush. You can just wait until you get better gear and try it again. Alright guys, I hope I blabbed on long enough. Probably forgot a few things, but I do not care because I am so thirsty now. Oh god.